have the pleasure of facilitating our family panel today for this very, very important event that we're having. And for the next hour, we're going to engage in some questions that we have thought would be great to answer. And so I prepared these questions, so our panelists are going to be answering them, but we are going to also try to make sure that there's time at the end for some question and answers. So get your questions ready, please. So now I'm going to take a few minutes just to give you a brief introduction of each of our panelists. The first is Dawana Hill. Dawana is a proud mother, autism activist, member of our Sankofa Parent Support Group here at the Mind, and as well as a parent peer coach for our Mind the Gap research project. I met Dawana and her family about 3 years ago doing an outreach event at the California State Fair to support disability awareness. And I knew right away and was so impressed with Dawana's commitment to spread autism awareness and acceptance. And Dawana's son, Camden, who is here with us today, is an autistic advocate, author, and just recently completed his first year of college at Azusa Pacific College. The next is Sarah Inman. Sarah is a proud mother of 2 elementary-age children, Madeline and Matthew, who are on the autism spectrum. Sarah is one of the very first people I met when my son was diagnosed over 8 years ago, and has always fought to be a dedicated advocate and person to really advocate for access to and inclusion for our autistic children in schools and community. She has served on several leadership boards, including our school district's Community Advisory Council. The next, we have a team, Anthony Zulli and John Almeida. Anthony is the little brother of John and is a very strong supporter and advocate for autism awareness. Anthony is still in elementary school, but yet he's already become quite famous. He has stood side by side with his big brother John, who has recently received local and national and international attention for his achievements as a professional runner. Most notably, John has recently completed the Boston Marathon in just 3 hours and 52 minutes. Next, we have Sonia Martinez. Sonia is a mother, disability advocate, and also a parent peer coach for our Mind the Gap research project. Sonia has 2 autistic children, Adrian, who is 15 and in high school, and Angelo, who is 3 years old. She is a mother warrior and has been a champion for children with autism and other healthcare needs for almost 2 decades. And last, we have April. April is a proud mother of Andy. She also serves as one of our community health specialists at the CED, the Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, and serves as a project lead for our support group for our Chinese American families in the Northern California area. She has built a strong network for Chinese families with children, with autistic children in the Bay Area, but now since she's moved to our Sacramento area, is gaining momentum in building a similar support group here. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into our questions that we've prepared. And the first question is, how has your child or family member on this spectrum been a life teacher for you? And really, this question is asking, in other words, how has your family member with autism positively impacted your life and worldview? And we have 3 people that have volunteered to prepare statements for this, to answer this question, so they'll be passing those mics around. So first will be Dawana, followed up with Sarah, and then ending with Anthony.
Okay, I don't know if mine is so much a prepared statement, but just a life that I've lived in the last 19 years that my son has been born. I have 2 older children that, are not on the spectrum. And so I kind of knew what that parenting kind of looked like, right? And when Camden was diagnosed, he was around 6 and a half. And for me, I quickly learned that I was no longer the teacher of the situation, right? I was the student, and he was teaching me, right? So that shift for me was monumental, because then that's when I was able to really understand what his needs were and be able to communicate to others what his needs were, right? So firstly, being that student and then turning around to be the teacher for anybody who came in interaction with him, right? So then that meant building a village, right? The village. And what does the village look like, right? That's teachers, that's coaches, right? That's grandma, that's grandpa, that's, siblings, that's aunts, uncles, right? So that's, you got to start building that village around them and clear their path, because they're going to teach you, right? You just build your village and clear their path, because they're in control, right? And once you're able to empower them in that way, for me, that was very instrumental in his success and being able to teach the world about him and how he operates in the world, right? And I think that, lots of times, that changes you in a way where for our family, it was like, you don't sweat the small stuff, right? Like, so being 5 minutes late, which I would absolutely lose my mind because I'm type A, right? It was kind of like, okay, we're going to be 5 minutes late, right? So, in that aspect, it was really important. And also being able to communicate that it's not that he's not going to be able to do it. It's just that it's going to look different, right? It's not subtracting things so he can make it happen. It's adding the support. It's going to look different, but it's going to get done, right? So for me, more than anything, that's really been, the changing point, and what he's offered me and everyone around him is that positivity to speak life into someone and not say you don't, you can't. It's like, no, you do it this way, or why don't you try it this way, or no, it doesn't look like that when he, this is what you need to do in order to be able to have him be successful. And once you move those obstacles with the don't and the can't and the won't, then you're able to clearly see the path, right? And that's what he's brought to our family, is that speaking life aspect into it, and the words that you use, right? And building that village to encourage all that, the support, right? And then we also now view failures as opportunities, right? So it didn't work this way, but you can make it work that way. So failures as opportunities is also a really big thing, because they're not going to succeed at everything, right? But you try it, you push them out of their comfort zone, and it's not the end of the world. That's the other thing, right? So that more importantly, that's, build the village, right? Don't sweat the small stuff, and speak life.
Hi, I think for me, the biggest way in which my children have influenced me in a positive way is they've really challenged my presumptions about what autism is, or what learning is, or what even quote unquote normal is. And I think, when my children were first diagnosed, I had thoughts about how this was going to go and what my journey was going to be, and our journey as a family, and what their journey was going to be. And it very much feels like every step of the way, they've challenged those thoughts of what I thought the journey was going to be. My son, for example, we've always talked to them about their autism and all the great things that come with their autism, and how it positively impacts them, and some of the challenges that also come with their autism. And our son, he was lucky enough to have an awesome third grade teacher who read the book Wonder to the class. And unbeknownst to me, apparently he got up at the end of the book and told his class, totally unprepared, I have autism, and this is how my autism impacts me, and I think differently, and I'm a wonderful human being, but I just happen to think a little differently. And apparently that caused one of his classmates to go home, and she has dyslexia, and she was very kind of fearful of other kids finding out about her dyslexia. And so it caused this little girl to go home and tell her mom, Matthew got up and he shared with the class that he has autism, and I really want to share with the class my dyslexia. And apparently it was something that had caused her a lot of anxiety, that other kids would find out that she had dyslexia and she was somehow less because she had dyslexia. And so this little girl and her mom talked about it, and so she got up the next day in class and she shared with the class that she has dyslexia and that she thinks differently too. And I think that it just made her mom indicated that it just made her feel so relieved, that she didn't have to hide who she was, or that her brain worked differently, than other kids. And I think Matthew is just so brave, and the fact that he would go in and do that with his class, just get up and share that he has autism and how that autism makes him in a positive way different, was just so remarkable to me. And I just admire his being brave, so much more brave than I think I could be. And so I think, as a parent, sometimes we have these expectations or these ideas about our child, or what this is going to look like, or what this journey is going to be. And I feel like every step of the way I've kind of been challenged by both of my kids. So I'm very thankful for that.
Me and John are always a team, duo. Except when I have to go to the grocery store. No, I'm not it. To me, I feel like autism is like having superpowers. What I mean is sometimes a disability gives them a power. Let's say John. Let's take John's running. John's autism blocks John's ability to think in terms of the future. He lives mostly in the moment. This is a big advantage when he runs a marathon, because running 26.2 miles takes much mental toughness as it does physical toughness. While other runners are worried about the miles that they yet have to go, John is right in the moment, putting one foot in front of the other. Instead of the thoughts dragging him down, John just runs. We would all be a lot happier if we lived in the moment like John. John lives to help others. Whenever I need John's help, he's always willing to help. He is always happy to play basketball with me or swim in the pool, and he is happy to help anyone. From helping Dad to the yard work to cleaning the house with Mom, John loves to help people. We should all take as much pleasure in as helping others as John does. Now, if I can only get him to do my homework. John is fearless. Running the Boston Marathon takes courage, and John has plenty of it. John is the poster child for the No Fear bumper sticker. He seems totally fearless. Of course, sometimes he might not understand what Mom gets him into. But when John goes to meet a challenge, he doesn't hesitate. He's all in, focused right down. We should all commit to our dreams 100% the way John does. These are just some things that I've learned from my brother from autism. And growing up with him is in some ways it's tough, some ways it is perfect. Most of the ways it's tough is when we ask him to do something, since he's nonverbal, we can't really get that secret or something out. And the good side is, if I want him to help me or grab my socks from the drawer from upstairs, he's always there. Another tough thing is that maybe he won't learn how to drive a car, or driving a car is pretty fun. not speaking from experience at all. Um, he doesn't need a car because he's as fast as one. You're going 60 miles per hour. You're seeing him right next door. Hello. Yam. Only word. Yeah, it's just, you have to live through it. It's a path that you have to get to. I feel like I'm not even halfway. So it's filled with a lot of mistakes and a lot of non-mistakes, but you just got to keep your mindset right and positivity. When you cry or have a bad day, they sense it. And so, thank you very much.
So our next question has to do with really addressing changing the mindset. And we were in our discussions and, just even in our time here, I know that I can personally attest to having to really challenge some of my thoughts. And so as a parent, that's also been something that I've had to grapple with. So when it comes to those of us who feel that our ideas and views about autism have really changed over time and over the years, I've asked for some of our panelists to really chime in and tell a story or think about an instance where they realize that their ideas and views about autism have changed from maybe neutral or negative to a view that's more positive worldview. And when it comes to that, thinking about what have they come to appreciate about their child or their family member on the autism spectrum, and how they've really learned to appreciate that their family member is autistic. So we're going to have Sonia and April answer those questions.
Well, when my son was diagnosed, he was diagnosed at 2 years old, and the doctor said that, he was not going to have any future. He was not going to go to a regular high school. He was not going to have a girlfriend, not to have any expectations. And so basically that just shattered all my dreams. But with early intervention and getting Alta and speech therapy and fighting tooth and nail, and getting ABA, my son, right now, he's 15 years old. He got a girlfriend. He broke up with his girlfriend. And, he's a gamer. He's going out. He went to the movies 2 weeks ago by himself with a friend, and I was having a breakdown because I was like, oh my God, it's nighttime. And, he has friends now. I mean, he has friends, and I'm not, there's not parents there. He's, going out to VR and doing stuff, and it's nice. He's having a life, and he's talking about going to college. Before they were saying he couldn't do these things, and my kid's saying that I want to go to college in San Francisco, and I'm like, no, I can't afford that. And so it's really, really awesome, and early intervention is, I really, encourage that, and you just don't know how far your child's going to blossom, but those things are really key to see how far he can succeed and how far you can get them to their success. And another thing is, too, we have to remember as parents that doctors are not God. They don't know everything, and we are their equal. We have a right. We are our child's voice. They cannot speak for themselves, and we have to remember that we speak for them, and we can question the doctors. We can question the therapists. Some of these therapists don't even have kids. So you know what? We're like, do you know what you're talking about? My son was not born with a handbook, so how can you read this from a handbook? So remember that. And another thing is too, I learned early not to be a helicopter parent. My son was 12 years old when he told me, hey, Mom, instead of you saying this, hey, this is Adrian with autistic, you don't say, hi, I'm Sonia, have diabetes, or hi, I'm Sonia, I'm bipolar. So, instead of you dropping me off and telling the mom, hey, this is Adrian, he's autistic, can you just not do that? He said, can you just drop me off and say this is Adrian and I'll call you later? And because he goes, parents think I'm gonna break a vase or something and have a meltdown. So he goes, they think worst case scenario, autism, I'm gonna do something. He goes, just, kind of like chill and let them learn, we're teenagers or preteens, that we have attitudes, and just kind of like let them know me, not know that I'm autistic and they kind of want to put everything away. So I was like, okay, I had to learn to back off and respect that, that he goes, because you don't tell him, hey, I'm bipolar, He goes, I will tell people when I'm autistic, when I feel I built that trust with them, and I need that. He goes, and that's my business, and I should be able to tell them who I am when I want to. So the little things like that I've learned, that hopefully that'll help you guys to, because I'm dealing with teenager right now, and good luck with you guys.
So my son is 13 now. He's in 7th grade. And, my husband and I, in hindsight, we probably have a lot of autistic traits. So when he was a little baby, we didn't think that he was, we just thought that he was very sweet. He was very happy. And then he got the diagnosis, high-functioning autism. And then he had a lot of challenges in school the first couple of years. And around that time, there was a lot of uncertainty. I had no idea how he was going to turn out, because there were, all kinds of labels, all kinds of descriptions, all kinds of behaviors. We got sent a lot of data from the BCBA, watching him every step of the way at school, comparing him to the normal kids every second. And we got tons and tons of data, right? So, so there was a lot of uncertainty, like, is he gonna, be able to, learn like other kids? Is he gonna be able to, do the things that other kids do? Is he gonna have a job? We didn't know, had no idea. So there was a moment when he was in 2nd grade. He went to a birthday party of, one of the friends in the class. They all went to a paintball party, mostly boys. And there's the one tall boy, he, bullies some of the littler boys sometimes, and particularly Andy's friend, who was short, got picked on at this party. So all the other bigger boys somehow were chasing after this little boy and, attacking him. And Andy was the only one that stood with this friend, even by his limited judgments and everything, they both probably could see there was no way they could win, but he stood. And there was no adults really nearby. This was all, adults were kind of, far away. And when they found out what was happening, they went to intervene, but this had already been going on for a while. So that other little boy's dad came to us, and, he was very touched, and he was like, that's Andy, that's him, because nobody had told him to do that. So that moment told me that, there's, a lot of uncertainty at certain times when you navigate, the changes, and you didn't know how you compare to others. For me, the added challenge is also that, I came from another country, another culture, and I probably have a lot of autistic traits. So I still, like, somebody asked me, how long did it take you to feel comfortable here? And I said, I don't think I ever feel, I still feel very much as an outsider or an imposter a lot of the times. If you've read, about women on with Asperger's, there's, stuff about that they just like mimic other people in certain situations. So I never know, I don't know, there were lots of uncertainty when your kids are young. When you first get that diagnosis, you're like, are we the weird ones? Are our values so different than others? Are we gonna be able to, like nurture our children, teach our children so that they will be okay, right? So that moment told me, like, all of the things that we've done, maybe it took time, maybe, you had to try different things, but it would work, and you would see that. And a lot of times that's the only thing that's worth believing in, right? Because there's a pathologizing of, especially kids who don't have a lot of medical issues, right? It's just all like, high functioning autism, you see these as behaviors. So there's a lot of, you could get lost in a lot of those, thoughts about, this is, how do I interpret this? There's a lot of, big words about this, and there's a lot of research, and there's no clear prediction. So, positive discipline, growth mindset, these are the things that I learned that really helped me. And just, everybody is different. Your kids are going to be different. All the, 350 families in our group, all of the kids and their parents are different. So, one person, one kid on the spectrum, one person. And so, but all the things that we do, the positive things that, that you heard about, building the village, the early intervention, all the positive things that we do, will work, and we will see their personalities grow. You will see that, you will see, the goodness that you tried, you put so much efforts in to nurture and grow. You will see that. So that was a moment in, kind of like, oh, okay, he did learn what's right and wrong, and he stuck to it. And our kids really stick to it, right? They're really good with rules. It's like, no, you guys cannot attack my friends. It wasn't really any party for him because paintball, it was a hot day. It was like overwhelming. It wasn't anything he enjoyed, but he stuck with his friends. So those, and then after that, of course, we had many moments like that, but that was kind of a, for me, it was like, because that was a time very, very chaotic that we were navigating with a lot of the school situations where, they were, sort of, I think they were trying to kick us out because we were mainstream. We required a lot of resources. So, I think it's just like, our kids, all of the efforts that we put in to help them and our network that we put in, you will see them grow. It might take different, ways and, maybe longer time or different things, but you will see their personality, you will see their strength, you will see their growth.
And for our last question, we're going to have everyone chime in that feels like they can expound upon it. The question really was thinking about a quote that, and really going to thinking about not trying to change your child, but really trying to be an advocate in changing the world. And so it comes from that idea. And so the question is, what do you see as your role in advocating for a world that is more accepting of our neurodiverse communities? So we can just go down the line, and whoever has the mic can answer.
Well, for this one, my son wants to let people know that, okay, he's 15 years old. He doesn't have behaviors anymore. He says, I'm not 5 years old. I don't have behaviors. I don't have meltdowns. I have bad days. He goes, you have bad days. I have bad days. My teacher has bad days. He goes, why is it when, something goes wrong, I'm having a meltdown, I'm having a behavior? He goes, why can't, we address it as a bad day? He goes, why can't you talk to me, or, instead of adding fuel to the fire, let me have a break, let me talk to me as a young adult and ask me what's wrong and address me as a human being instead of, like a problem. I'm not a problem, he says. I just need someone to talk me down or talk to me and ask me what's going on, give me some air, let me diffuse, and then come back. He told the teacher, you have a bad day. You always have a bad day. He goes, so you need to let me have a bad day once in a while and come back, reset, and I will be okay. He goes, someone could have bumped me in the hallway, or, I could have had a bad grade, but he goes, just please treat me as a human being. I'm not a problem. He goes, I just need someone just to talk to me. And, just tell me, even it says, I just someone to tell me, hey, do you need a hug, buddy? A hug, and then he goes, just even that, just that human touch of like, okay, I'm good now. So, just those little things, even though he's in high school, he's just like, I just need someone just to talk to me as a human being, and sometimes we I know they're busy and they're stressed out teachers, but just sometimes they need to just remember, just, talk to our kids, and just that human touch or that human moment really means a lot to our kids, and it makes a world of difference to their day. So see how that, hopefully, spread that message.
Well, I just kind of wanted to share my advocacy journey with my son. Like I said, he was diagnosed when he was, 6.5. And when he was in middle school, he was having behaviors and not paying attention in class, in his math class specifically. And he was drawing in in his binder instead of, doing math. But during that process, I was kind of quizzing him on exactly what was going on in math, and he was, spouting off all the answers correctly, and then I'm reading, in his binder, and it's like all these little pictures of, it looks like him and somebody else, and it was like, Cam, this is you and your friends, right? This is you and your friends. He was literally just telling you how his week was through cartoons and comics, right? And so when he was in the 7th grade, he decided to start a comic strip called Aspen Norm. And he's since written a little, self-published a little comic strip book called Aspen Norm Educates on Autism Spectrum Acceptance. And it really just goes over, what it's like to be on the spectrum and, with his normal friends. That's, Norm represents his normal friends. And so for us, it's been one of those things where it just all came really naturally, right? So he's a part of an organization called ATOU, which is A Touch of Understanding, and they have a disability awareness program that he speaks at specifically for those on the spectrum, just to kind of educate them a little bit and have a little bit of compassion and empathy. And he has his little mantra is like, acceptance is treatment that can be administered daily. Treatment happens in the world. It's not in the closed doors behind, ABA and PET and OT and all. It doesn't happen in there. Acceptance happens in the world, right? And just learning the difference between tolerance and acceptance. We tolerate pain. We tolerate things we don't like. We don't want to be tolerated, right? It's like, I don't want to be tolerated, Mom. I want to be accepted, right? And there was a huge difference. He speaks to these elementary school kids, and he's like, do you guys remember when you were little and your parents used to feed you vegetables and you absolutely hated vegetables, right? They would, pretend like it was an airplane going into your mouth and all that good stuff, and it just didn't work. You just didn't like it. You tolerated them. You ate them because your parents made you. And he's like, but there's some of us who loved vegetables and broccoli and cauliflower and all that good stuff, and we ate it because we liked it, right? And so he goes, I want to be that vegetable that you guys like. We want to be that vegetable that you guys like. So, again, at the spectrum, it's like a bag of Skittles. You don't know who you're going to get, right? So just keep that in mind. Acceptance is treatment that can be administered daily by all of us, right?
I think the most important thing for our kids is getting the world to accept them for who they are and all the beauty that they come with. And I think it's really important to get our kids out into the community and have our kids be ambassadors and teach the community all the positive things that come with autism, and teach them about the accommodations and the ways in which the world should help our kids as well. Another example of my son is he's in 4th grade now, and he's on the debate team, and he's gone to debate tournaments, and at one of the tournaments, at the end, the judges always critique the debaters, and one of the judges said to him, well, you were pretty wiggly, and he didn't even bat an eye, and he said, well, that's because I have autism. And so my autism makes me a little wiggly. And he was very much saying, I'm part of the world, I'm up here debating, but I do have these challenges, and that does make me a little bit different, but that's okay. And I think it's important for our kids to be out in the community with everybody else, challenging everybody's idea of what their perception or what their stereotype is of autism. Because I find that when my kids are out there challenging the world's expectations, they really grow. The community grows by learning what remarkable individuals that they are, and the remarkable things as individuals that they can do.
So I resonate a lot with what has been shared here. Having a community, the greatest benefit is that you have people who have, expertise in certain areas. So it's great to have that community, and it's like, crowdsourced, right? And I was thinking about this, and it's a little bit like real artificial intelligence, but I don't know, I'll explain later. But our community is so diverse now, so we have small pockets of experts, and then, if somebody throws up a question, and a bunch of people who had just been through it or been through it several years ago will jump in, and, that person, we will all learn together and get that answer. So, right, it's like AI, right? So, I think part of also advocating for the community is I am more unapologetically geeky because, you have to model this to your kids and be like, this is okay, right? You speak with facts and science and, all of these things, and that's okay. There are all kinds of different people. And we, and the other one is that, so now within the community, we can have very focused groups. Like I just started several groups for older kids that are in transition between, like middle school to high school and beyond. And so, so then we can, draw on all of the community experts to help with this. And I think the common thing for all of us is that we continuously learn to accept, our children still, because they change, they grow. My son is 13, so there's a little bit of that teenage, defiance and things like that coming in. So we still continuously to learn and listen to them and involve them, ask them, involve them in the planning. What would you like to do? What would you like to see in a few years? We, give them the options and, listen to them and really let them help us, make the decisions and plan for them together, right? So I think, many of the people here have shared that, let them lead, let them help you lead.
Just so you guys know, I wasn't prepared for this question, so I'm just putting it up on the top of my head. As an advocate for John, if I don't say so myself, I think I got him into basketball. Yeah, the thing about basketball is that he had to learn it. And when he's playing basketball outside with me, he kind of passes me the ball and he's not really practicing the basics of it. He just kind of wants me to do it. And so when I heard that he got signed up for basketball, I realized, let's get started. I'm the teacher. And so first I basically had him do dribbling, which my dad usually calls him over to watch a game, but now I realize that he really actually watches it and not just looks at his fingers. So I said, do a crossover. He kept on dribbling in between his hands. I was like, wow, that's really nice. And almost better than me. No. But, yeah, and I got him into basketball, I feel like that, and mainly I'm speaking for John. So right now, I'm going to feel like an interviewer. Do you have anything to say, John? Do you have anything to say?
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Mainly, speaking for John, I feel like looking at John, I feel like having 100 words at least. Muscular. Brown hair. Yeah, all right. As an advocate to John, I feel like speaking. Okay. Speaking for him is very, very fun for him. So, thank you.
So as a parent, you have to deal with a lot of conflicting wants and you have like a lot of conflicting wants and desires for your child. I mean, for any child, no matter what it is. And I think especially for autistics, raising an autistic child, you have two very different, distinct categories. On the one hand, you want to help them, and you want them to, you want the environment to be safe, and you want things to be fine, but you also want them to be independent, and you want them to be functioning, and you want them to, right? So you have that dichotic thing. And then, as I think it was Dewana who said something about, or no, it was Sonia who said something about the helicopter parent. It's like, you want to protect your kids, right? But you also want your kids to be able to go out and go be on their own as a family. And so I'm assuming that this is very much a thing that it's kind of like a teeter-totter like all the time, right? So I guess what has been your strategy, and not just those categories, but others? Like, how do you really, there's the balance of, like, I want to protect my son, but I want my son to go out there, and I want to support my son and have a supportive environment, but I also want him to be independent and be able to, like, how do you go about balancing that, and how has it been good for you?
And I'm glad you asked that question, because I have two older boys. They're not on the spectrum. When they were in high school, they went to school dances, they had dates, they went to dinner, pictures, all that good stuff. And when Cam got to high school, I just didn't know what that was going to look like, right? And my expectation, right, as a parent is like, well, he's gonna go to school dances too, and he's gonna have a date, and he's gonna have pictures and all this. And when that didn't happen for me, I had to like remove myself from the equation, right? Because my experience is not gonna be his experience, right? So for him, he was perfectly fine. I, as a parent, I'm like on Facebook and I'm looking, oh, so-and-so has a date and they're at dinner now and they're gonna go to senior ball or junior prom or whatever. And Cam's gonna go to she's gonna go to junior prom, but he doesn't want to have a date. He's not going to have a date. He's not going to go to dinner. He's not going to take pictures. He's going to want me to take him, drop him off at the dance as soon as it starts, and he's going to want me to pick him up as soon as the dance is over, right? But as a parent, I'm like, oh, that's not the experience. That's my experience. That's not his experience. For him, it was a perfect day. Right? I went to the dance, I saw some friends, I got the party started dancing. That was his thing. He had a great time. But for me, as a parent, and as my own experience, I was projecting that onto him, when in actuality, I'm feeling sad for him, and he's like, Mom, I'm good, right? So there's that aspect of it, relinquishing that expectation because of the way your life has been, or the way someone else, your other children, and his siblings have always been, right? Relinquishing that and allowing him to step into his light and what he wants to do, right? Now, he did senior ball. He did do it my way, and he did have a date. He did go to dinner. He did have pictures. And it was good for him because he was able to do that contrast. And he's like, you know what, Mom? Dances are so much better with a date, right? Right? So there's that experience. So then again, like to speak to what you're asking, like I had to remove myself from the equation, my feelings, my expectations, right? And let him just take the reins and do what he needed to do because he was fine, right?
I wanted to make a comment real quick. Well, I started to, one of my therapists when we had ABA told me I really need to listen to Adrian. She said, even though he's a little kid, He said he's a human being and he has a voice, because a lot of the parents don't listen to their kids. So, you just dismiss them. So she said you need to really listen to your children. So I actually would just sit down and say, well, what do you need or what don't you like? So he started using his voice when he was like around 10 years old, and he told me, I don't like that therapist. And so I was like, okay. And so I would tell the ABA, I'm sorry, you can't, she doesn't like you, so it's not working. And so we had to, get a new therapist. And so things like that, I really had. Then when he told me at 12 years old, like, I need you to stop telling people at the parent or the mom I'm autistic when you drop me off. Stop. And I saw little things like that, I had to back off. And that's when he cut my wings off, and I said, okay. So little baby steps I had to learn to then he had rights at 13. His doctor told me he has patient rights, and I was like, okay. so little things like that, but it was baby steps for me.
I think that's a great question. I will say, as a parent, your instinct is to be very protective. And it is hard, I think, to let go. But I think, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like you have to trust them and you have to let them take the lead. And I feel like just a lot of talking to them about how they're feeling and where they feel comfortable being independent, whereas maybe sometimes they don't feel comfortable being independent. And so we try to talk to them about it a lot. Do you feel that you can do this by yourself? Or I think you're probably ready to do this by yourself. So just a lot of talking to them about it and having the dialogue and letting them have some buy-in and letting them take the lead and just trusting them to know when they're ready to be more independent or do things more by themselves. But it's really hard. And I tell you, as a parent, what I really struggle with is those social interactions, and where you hear some of the things that maybe other kids are saying to them, and knowing when to see if they can just handle it on their own or when to step in, and do you have a teacher step in? And that's where I really struggle, is just how much can they handle socially by themselves versus when do I need to step in and when do I need to tell another adult to step in? And that is a real challenge. But what I found as a parent too is if I come in and I step in too early, they're less likely to tell me what's going on because they don't always want me to step in. And so I try to just trust them that I hope that they can figure it out. And if I see behaviors in them that I can just tell that they're stressed, then maybe I start doing some digging.
In regards to preparing your child for the real world, I know earlier the speaker was using normalizing your kiddos. In regards to that versus making the environment way more supporting, what's something that you'd like to share with any educators in regards to teachers or paras that you've had, and how what can they do to better suit the needs of your kiddos from a parent perspective?
I can start with that. I think, if I understand you correctly, I think it's, as a parent and, whoever also is close to the child, you will learn their needs and you will try to navigate and find a best setting for them because, the kids' needs are different. Some of them can be fully mainstream. Some need that one-on-one environment so that they can gain the skills. So, and then as they grow, you just, need to continuously, evaluate and adjust if there's more or less support. And, I've had different experiences, and our parents in the group have had different experiences where, just some of the teachers or professionals, are more experienced with this kind of kid, and and you have to work with them if they're not, and just get the communication going and understanding of how best to support. And I think it goes back a lot to the previous question. It's just you have to constantly learn, and also involve them in the planning and just kind of see. I'm instructional designer for online courses, and in instructional design and some of the other designs, you start with the outcome in mind and you go backwards. So the ultimate outcome of parenting is separation in my mind. So you peel back from that, and what is the process? You think about 2 years to 5 years. When the kids are very young, maybe it's a few months to a year. When they're older, it's 3 to 5 years, right? And then eventually, so you have to see, and you need to also compare your kids with the other kids if they're in the mainstream situation to kind of see, where they are. So we're talking with a lot of parents now about what are the options. Now in high school, we have, vocational technology classes, we have internships, we have a lot of different things going on in high school. So there are different options, so your ultimate outcome for going to school at the end of when they're 18, is that necessarily going to college? No. So you kind of need to think about that. And yes, there is actually scientific ways of planning and looking at the process, but then also there's a lot of just like adjusting the little things as you go.
I'm a member of a competitive rowing team, and I just I saw you on TV, and and my comment was that I just think that becoming an athlete has been the best way to cut the bad feelings and sort of stop the thoughts a little bit, the repetitive thoughts. So congratulations.
Like you said, cutting the thought. Definitely John's running. When someone runs, I've never seen someone ask for more. And that just shows how much of how far he came and how much he's really gone through. Like the Boston Marathon, he got asked to do the Marine Marathon, I'm pretty sure. And then they were just in Modesto a couple of days ago, actually. They went over to Chico to check out the people who the fires got to their houses. So yeah, with John's running, it definitely blocks out all the bad emotions sometimes. Like, he has bad days sometimes. I remember one time he came home from school, there was scratches on his face, and one of his earbuds were torn out, but yeah. And sometimes days like those, you just have to brush it off, and that day you didn't have really running to his advantage, and first it started by long walks to short jogs, and then one day he just blasted off. My dad couldn't keep up with him. You know who you are.
The UC Davis Mind Institute was created in 1998 with a promise to find cures for neurodevelopmental disorders. Every day, our physicians and researchers come closer to fulfilling that promise. Their groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other brain disorders are helping children achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.